Hello, old friend. I heard a rumor that you were getting some upgrades. Ooh, they have no idea what's in store for you. Do I have an update for you guys? Yesterday, I was going through my box of old hardware. I've got quite a few different old motherboards, stuff like dual Opteron boards and all this stuff that we're gonna do in videos later down the line. Don't worry, the retro stuff's not gonna stop. It's gonna keep going on forever and ever and ever for as long as I have retro hardware, which I've got heaps and heaps of it. But I wanted to show you guys something, right? So anyway, I was going through my parts box and I forgot that I had this, right? This is crazy that I forgot that I had this, right? The motherboard in old Pentium 5 boy over there, that company doesn't even exist anymore. And when I was going through the box looking for something else for another project, I've got a Pentium 3 build coming as well. I found this, right? A whole nother board, another Socket 7 board with the CPU already on it, but this CPU is better. It's the Pentium 200 MMX, it's faster, but the great thing about this is got 20 pin ATX power, which means we can get rid of that old AT power supply. Now, there's a couple things that are happening in the background here. I ordered a whole bunch of parts for that. I've actually ordered an ATX to AT harness adapter, and because of the shipping delays of the pandemic and everything going on in Sydney at the moment, stuff that I ordered 2 weeks ago still hasn't arrived, and it's coming literally from Sydney. So the PS2 mouse and everything that I ordered for that still hasn't arrived. I ended up buying another keyboard, a nice Leopold one with mechanical switches for that works with PS2. It works. I've played with that system now. Because this little spanner has been thrown into the works, I'm gonna be doing it all again with this. Now, I don't even know if this works at all, but there's a few things I discovered about that other board. That USB header that I found, I wired it up. It worked. I can use a USB mouse in Windows 98 only. So this is no longer the Windows 95 gaming PC. This is gonna be the Windows 98 gaming PC, only because I need USB to use a mouse. I don't have a serial bus mouse. I don't have a PS2 mouse. I don't have any mouse that works with a PS2 adapter. It has to be USB. Now this one here has a nice labeled USB header on the board, which is the same as the cable that I've wired up for USB on that. So it's gonna be pretty plug and play, but we don't know if this works. I'm gonna pull that thing apart. We're gonna swap this board in. Once we swap this board in, we're gonna figure out if it works, and then I'm gonna show you guys some other upgrades I actually did get to arrive. Let's jump in and pull it all apart and do all that stuff. If you haven't seen the first part of this series, check out the link in the top right-hand corner right now, but actually do it later. But essentially, this is a Pentium 166 MMX system with 64 megs of RAM, a Voodoo 2, an S3 Trio 64 Plus, and a Vibra 16. Now, in the first part, we basically cleaned this thing up and built it, but we couldn't do anything with it because we didn't have a keyboard that was compatible. One thing I wanted to talk about as well, look at this. I've got a USB port that I've wired up to the motherboard that I can use for the mouse. So when I'm doing everything, it's kind of ghetto for now until my PS2 mouse arrives, but this is the story for now. There is a couple things that I want to also show you before we continue as well. IDE to CF adapters are really convenient for this kind of stuff, but this type in particular is not great. It works, but it's not accessible without pulling the whole thing apart. I got my hands on this. You can see it goes into the rear with the back plate, and you can pull the CF card out through the back. Now, I didn't want to modify the front of the case because I still wanted it to retain that old school PC look, but with this, it retains that look, but now I can access it from the back. That's exactly what I wanted, and this will do the trick. I ended up going through a box of unused camera storage, and I pulled this from Claire's old Canon 5D Mark III. It's a 32 gig CF card that she hasn't used in how many years, Claire? 4 years or something?
A while.
It's been a while. She switched to SD shortly after. So this is gonna be the storage. So no more adapter, straight 32 gig CF card. However, there is a bit of a twist with this story because this will be removable storage. You heard that right. because what we're actually going to do is use this, right? You see SATA or SATA, however you want to say it, depending on where you're in the world. IDE on the other, because I'm going to be chucking an SSD in here for maximum speed. An SSD that's not going to give me any problems in the BIOS is this Kingston SSD. Now this thing is so old. This is the first SSD I ever owned. You can tell it's like really early because it's a lot thicker than most SSDs. It's so old that it's not even SATA 3, it's SATA 2. It'll be just fine for this system. It's more than fast enough for this. And lastly, because both of these boards support SD-RAM, I have this kit of SD-RAM. I don't know how big it is. I'm hoping it's a 128 gig kit, which would be awesome. I'm gonna be switching it over to SD-RAM because these older systems love much faster RAM, and this RAM will most likely be faster than whatever is in here currently. So we're gonna test this out. If it doesn't work, we'll switch it back over to the EDO RAM, but we wanna test this out with the new board, but I think it's time to switch it out. I'm having some crazy deja vu because we only put this together a week and a bit ago, and already it's coming apart. I actually got this system up and running the other day. It works. This system booted up. And I use Windows 98, but as I mentioned, Windows 95 is now out of the question because for now we need that USB mouse support. It's really hit and miss in Windows 95, so I'd rather just avoid the situation. And considering Windows 95 and Windows 98 are so similar, it makes sense just to do it that way. I actually didn't have any problems with getting any of this hardware to work. I didn't even have to install anything except the Voodoo drivers, and everything else just worked. It was brilliant. The power button on this is an AT power button, which isn't a momentary switch, it's a hard switch, and we need to figure out a way of making soft power for this. The backup plan is to use the reset button on the case, which can work no problem. We can do that if we really need to. My plan is to salvage some other switch from something else and convert it so I can use the regular power button. Now there's probably solutions out there already. This is a real last minute thing, and I just want to use this computer. I want to use it to its full potential. So we're going to do whatever we need to do to get this to work. We'll get this power supply out now, which is getting replaced, which I'm very excited about. This thing sucked. Remember the first part, guys, when it was just ridiculously loud? The loudest thing that we're probably going to hear in this system is going to be probably the CPU fan. As long as the power supply doesn't deafen me, I'll be more than happy to see this old piece of junk be put out to pasture. I'm going to try and use this button here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the mounting bracket from here. I'm going to mount it in here. If I can't get that to work, then we'll use the reset button, but let's just give it a try and see what happens. Bracket, 2 screws. We probably won't need to use it anymore anyway. I'm pretty sure this was a type of mod you did back in the day anyway. I can't remember soft power mods. I do remember using the reset button as a power button on when I added boards with soft power. All right, I did a little bit of tinkering off camera and I got this to actually work now. So we should have soft power with this momentary switch and the little mod that I made. If you look at this power button now, it pushes down as it should, but now it's a momentary switch with soft power. Alrighty, continuing. There's a lot of screws everywhere. Hopefully they all go back to where they belong. This board is a lot smaller than the board that we had in here before, but it's actually better in a lot of ways. The USB is, a lot easier to get to. And this is a gigabyte board, so you can even still download BIOSes for this board, and there is actual documentation for it, which makes this a whole lot more attractive for things I want to do later down the line. And there's a lot of people on forums and stuff who've done stuff with this board, so we actually know what it is, we know what it can do, and it just makes it a better overall package, especially if I want to update the CPU later. There's more documentation for jumpers and that kind of stuff, so it's going to be a lot easier if I do want to go faster. I think the maximum speed CPU we can go on this board is 400 megahertz. This is half of that, so let's get the motherboard in. Here's a bit of old school trivia for you. Now, standoffs were a thing, but they would only usually use a couple of them because you would probably use these instead. Now, these clip into the motherboard tray. So this one here is one that actually hooks in. This one's been hacked from whoever had this before, so it would just sit flush, so it didn't need to clip in, but these are plastic standoffs to stop it from fouling on the case itself. I kind of like these. I kind of wish we still use these. You probably still could use these, but I mean, screw in your motherboards, guys. The reason why I'm showing you this is because I need to put these back in. So we're gonna put one here. We'll put these non-clippy ones in the edges like that, and we'll put the ones that need to feed through the holes in the center, so then the board's completely held in. And I think that's all of the ones that we've got. Yep, that's it. Alrighty, let's put all the cards and all that stuff in. We're sacrificing one PCIe slot for this now, whereas with the other board, I don't think, maybe we did, I don't remember. And then right underneath, see, with these PCI cards and stuff, it doesn't really matter what slot you put them in as long as they're plugged in. Okay, now the Voodoo 2 can go in that slot there. Ethernet card, which I've actually been using. It's really handy to have Ethernet in this system actually. So we'll get that plugged in. And now we'll add our CF adapter. We'll get this out. Last but not least, the sound card, because we need all of that soundy goodness. All right, all the cards are in. Now I'm gonna plug all the other stuff in, but I'll do that all off camera. I'm gonna chuck this SSD in. I found this old bracket from OCZ. They don't even exist like that anymore. But yeah, we're gonna chuck that in and just, you know, have it mounted up nicely so we don't have to have it all so ghetto, right? All right, ladies and gents, time for our moment of truth. Here's my new keyboard I got. It's a nice Leopold mechanical one with cherry silvers. Works with PS2, so that's why I got it as well. I've got the USB port connected inside the PC that I rewired for this motherboard with just like a wireless mouse just for when we install Windows. And I have DOS with all the Windows 98 install media put on this SSD. So with some luck, this should boot up and we can start installing Windows 98. So with the soft power button mod that I did, it should turn on. You ready? Here we go. CPU fan is a little bit loud, but that's to be expected with CPU cooler of this age. We've got 64 megs of SD RAM, fully detected, 200 megahertz Pentium MMX, and with some luck, we should get dropped into DOS. And here we are, we're in DOS. So what I've done is I've copied all the stuff I need for this hardware to this drive already using my USB to SATA adapter because it is just regular SATA SSD. But we've got all of our install media here for Windows 98. So what we're gonna do is we're going to install Windows 98. Here we go. Now I know that for a fact the mouse probably is not gonna work straight off the bat because it's not PS2, but we should be able to navigate the whole installer with the keyboard. And because we're installing this from an SSD to the SSD, it should be rather quick to install the whole operating system. Alright ladies and gents, that's just about going to do it for the second part of the series. I want to do a third part because I want to benchmark the system and play some games and show you guys all of the awesome 3D effectsness that this thing can do. The only reason why I'm not doing it right now, I don't have the cable to plug the 3D effects card into the regular video card with the little pass-through. I have ordered one and it should have arrived like at the start of last week or whatever, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I'm gonna wait for that to arrive before we do that because I wanna do it properly. I wanna do it justice. And I've spent so much time getting this up and running with everything that I need on it that I just wanna finish the video off, and I'll give you guys the full experience in the next video. But if you're enjoying this series, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if it brings back some nostalgia for you guys. I absolutely love playing with old computers. I've got a Pentium 3 system that I've been tinkering with. That's gonna be coming in a build. It's an ATX board, so I'm gonna do some RGB Pentium 3 goodness. So that's gonna come in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm your boy Nick with Gear Seekers. You peak, we seek. And again, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am because this is super fun. I'm so glad that this motherboard ended up working. I'm so glad that I've got this all up and running now. It's much quieter. I just wish the CPU fan was a little bit quieter, but once we put the case back on, I think we're gonna be good. Thanks for watching.